Hey everyone, this is Skye and welcome back to my channel. So I was just looking back at some of my old videos, and then I stumbled upon one of my timelines, and that just made me think about, well, why don't I just do a video about the past 23 years of my life in transition. Well, I wouldn't say that the last 23 years of my life was a transition, but I started my transition 23 years ago, and then I've been living my life since then. I just wanted to just do a recap on, the beginning of my whole transition, and until now. So I just thought I would just kind of like do a little walkthrough about, the beginning of my transition until now. Just basically just giving, an idea of, what I went through and what kind of life I've had. So here goes. So around the turn of the century, which would be 2000, I decided to go full-time, living in the selected gender that I feel like I should be living in. So I was going through the process of where you would go and see a therapist, then they would evaluate you and then decide whether or not they give you a referral to to see an actual doctor or specialist or whatever. However, back then where I lived, there wasn't too many specialists that dealt with that. There might have been one or two or something like that, and one of them I think was really big time on gatekeeping and stuff like that. And it was like a shady, secretive business where, you had to go through a back door in order to be seen. To deal with your transness, and you were segregated from everybody else. So yeah, it was kind of like a strange time back then. But I had another doctor. There's a little bit probably more doctors than that out there, but they weren't advertising it, or it wasn't a thing for trans people to get out and just find a doctor like it is today. But to start even before that, so even before that, when I came into the realization that I was different, I thought different than what I presented as, and I struggled through those thoughts because, back then, and the upbringing that I have being Gen X, to me, I just felt like it was shameful to have these thoughts because of my upbringing. So I had to struggle with those thoughts for a while. But then, the curiosity got to the better of me, and I decided to actually research it. And then that's when I discovered, this is what I am, or this is possibly what I am. And I wanted to explore it. So I ended up exploring it for a couple of years, just denial and then going through the cycle of curiosity. It got to the point where I did start, trying to cross-dress, because I just said one day, screw it, I'm going to try it and see, what it'd be like. And then the first time I put a dress on, I was like disgusted because here I am, I had this very masculine male body, and I put a dress on and it like didn't look right. So I stopped, because of that, I stopped doing that. But again, it's just a cycle of repeating. And I went and started trying more and more different things until I just finally gave in. So that's how the whole thing began. So fast forwarding to maybe just prior in the 1999, I literally just started seeing a therapist. And then I started the process of starting low-dose hormones. They weren't really the kind of hormones I would want to use today. It was more like a experimenting with weak stuff that really doesn't do much. um, but eventually, it worked into me actually getting injections, and well, I started with pills, and then I got into injections, and then during that time, that's when I around 2000, I decided to do the real life experience and actually start living full time in the gender that I chose. So that being said, starting 2000, I moved from the situation I was in because it wasn't conducive to me living my life the way I wanted. So I moved in with a friend who is transgender that I had met through a support group. Um, Together, I was able to experience life. I'm kind of like, it's hard to say. For me, it just felt like I was cross dressing for a while and pretending and just learning some stuff, of course. Then eventually, as the hormones started really taking effect, or I was seeing the changes and feeling the changes, I started feeling like, uh, you know, more in tune with where I wanted to be. And then it no longer felt like that anymore. I was on hormones officially. I was living in the gender that I chose, and that's when I met my first husband. Um, so once we connected, we just basically lived our life. But during that time, there was a lot of struggles with me trying to fit in or try to. Ooh, my hair sticking up. uh, I wouldn't say so much as fit in, but to try uh, to conform to what my ideal was for what being a woman was supposed to be. Um, I really had no idea. Just like a lot of people, I don't think we really have an idea. We know we feel a certain way, and then we try to emulate it as best as we can. Um, but through a lot of experimentation and things like that, I finally just felt, like I just needed to be me, and it would naturally come out instead of just trying to act or have the mannerisms like what I believe. I think when people try to use too many mannerisms, all of a sudden it becomes a character versus who you really are. Um, so yeah, that would be my advice: is try not to be a character and just be who you are. Um, just remember that and the biggest thing is to look at other women, like cisgender women, and see how they're acting. Especially people of your own age group, and just try to be like that. And then eventually, I think all that will just come together, and you'll naturally be you instead of being somebody that you are trying to be. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it worked for me. I am who I am. Some days I'm getting off the track here. Anyways, let me just continue on. So for about 2 years, I believe it is, I was doing pretty good with my changes and being on the shots more regularly. However, the way I was taking my shots probably wasn't right, and I had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, like really hormonal ups and downs, if you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't pretty during the times when I needed to get my shot. But still, I had a lot of good development, and I was progressing pretty well regardless. Um, but one day, my doctor told me that he was no longer practicing that part of being a doctor, and told me he didn't have a referral for me. So, in a state of panic, I tried to look around and I couldn't find any doctors. So, out of desperation, I researched hormones, like natural herbal stuff. And then from there, I started doing that. So in a sense, I medically detransitioned for about 10 years, and then I'll move on to that. So during the time while I was still on HRT, I finally came to terms with. Well, in the beginning, I was very like a shy or a scared cat. You know, anything that happened, I would just react to it. Um, Especially in the very beginning when I was going through all the changes. At first, it felt good because people were like, well, in the beginning, they couldn't tell what I was because I was in that in between state of looking male and then having feminine features. So some people would think I'm female and then suddenly, oh, you're a guy or something like that, and you know they would be freaking out. But then as time went on, the changes started taking place, and I had more of a feminine appearance than I did a masculine appearance. Guys started holding doors open for me and things like that, and that was a strange feeling. Um, but it felt good too at the same time. So yeah, that was great. The biggest problem I had was up in here. Um, I always felt like I was getting clocked by everybody, and every time I would just hear something behind me or a conversation, I would think they're talking about me. I was just like paranoid and freaking out. Um, about 90% of it was just me. The other 10% might have been true. So that being said, I had to get through that. It just took time, and I got used to being me. And as the developments happened, I had less of that. So it took a few years for that to happen. Um, so moving forward, during that time, I had gotten comfortable, and then my doctor told me I did not have hormones anymore. I started researching into the plant-based stuff, but essentially I was medically detransitioning, and that wasn't fun. However, for some reason, I was maintaining a certain level of feminism that, I was kind of like, as long as I presented myself that, in a feminine way, dressed feminine, wore makeup, and covered, this stuff here, um, I, for the most part, could still pass. However, I was kind of like, it was kind of some of my functions. Well, my functions did return, but I did not fully masculinize like I thought I would have. So for 10 years, I was able to maintain that, um, and during that time, I was able to still be myself. It's hard to explain. You don't. I mean, mentally, if as long as you're like in the game, um, you don't mentally just turn back to the way you were. At least it didn't happen that way for me. Who I am today is who I was for the last 23 years. Um, that never changed. However, if I if I just started acting the way I used to, like a dude, obviously that would show through and become that. But I didn't. So, you can be transitioned. Everyone's different. My features, I was never born with super masculine facial features and things like that. So I think I'm lucky in that sense. I continued to just live my life and just try to transition as much as possible without the actual HRT. I went through a lot of things. Again, I was productive, in my life. I didn't let anything set me back, even though, I wasn't on HRT. Um, and I had a good life, so there was nothing really negative in regards to being trans during that time. Um, so I got to a point after 10 years, I felt like my whole transition become stale. There's nothing going on. I wasn't as feminine as I wanted to be. I started getting into that rut, and I felt like, there's a lot of things I needed to change in my life. I just woke up one day and just said, it ain't gonna happen. I'm gonna die unhappy if I don't do this. So I slowly, uh, and it was a lot more complicated stuff going on at the time. I'm not going to talk about it here, but one of the things, though, that I will talk about is the resuming my HRT. During that time, that 10 years, I didn't think it was possible that there were still doctors. I was still stuck in the past, not thinking about doing the research, knowing that, things have changed. A lot of things have changed. Even the pronouns and everything have changed since I started. And once I found that out and I started looking for doctors, I'm like, wow, I can just go anywhere and go get me hormones. So that's what I did. I went and found me a doctor, and I finally was prescribed some pills to start off with. And I started off slowly with lower doses, and that built up after a while. Luckily, my doctor was very susceptible to whatever, as long as it was in reason and I did my research, he was willing to experiment with me. So I'm thankful for that. So in 2015, I started changing a lot of things in my life, and then I went back on HRT, and I started to want to. The biggest thing was this stuff here. I wanted to get rid of that, so I actually started investing in that. In the time, as if you've watched some of my videos in the past from 2015 on, which is when my channel started, that's the beginning of that transition back into HRT. So the last 6 or 7 years of my life was like a second transition. Even though I didn't stop the transition, it was like a second transition. I was going through the same things, except more so now because of technology. So I started doing videos. I started doing hundreds and hundreds, well, probably 1,000 or more selfies, because that's what we do. We are interested in the changes and documenting it, and being able to look back in the past and look at the way we were. So that is the reason why I do that. Of course, I don't take as many selfies as I used to. Obviously, I have no need to do so. But within the 5 years, or the 6, 7 years, I can say it was a game changer, a life changer. Even though I was still living the way I wanted to, having the appearance match exactly the way you want to see yourself means a whole lot. So yeah, in the beginning, it was like this exciting new thing, a present that you just got. And, every day I was like looking in the mirror and looking at the changes. I think within the first 4 5 months, that's when I started seeing things really happen. And I was really happy back then, because I could see the features on my face just start looking different and changing. And from there on, that's when I started becoming and looking the way I wanted to feel on the inside. And even though I've gone through several, I don't know, mini changes or something like that, my features have changed, and I think that's just true for everyone. We all look the same generally. I mean, our bone structures and everything. You could put somebody else's skin on your face and you'll still look like you. But just the minute differences, I can tell that, I've gone through several different stages. And mentally, that's a different story altogether. If you've been on my channel for a while, I've had these struggles where, I was trying to find that masculine, feminine, where I wanted to be stage, because I don't know, something in the hormones, I don't know, the cycles or whatever, your body processes everything, and you go through these cycles every once in a while. I would have this urge of feeling masculine, and then there'd be days where I would feel kind of in between, and then there's days I'm like super ultra. I just feel like very feminine. And I do for the most part every day, except my job makes me feel kind of masculine because of the field that I'm in. But I can separate those things and you know, live both lives all in one, I guess you could say. Now I do, just so you know, and you probably know from the past videos I've done, is I am binary. You know, I consider myself, female, male to female, and that's where I stay. I don't, and I'm not saying that's wrong for anybody to feel any other way. I'm just saying that's just me. That's my generation, I guess. The way of thinking, I don't know. It might be, but you know, I am binary, so I think one way. However, what conflicts is that I have those masculine feelings still inside that I do struggle with. I used to work out a lot when I was the other person. And, you know, that just never left me. You know, it took a break for a while because, you know, what I was doing. But then it came back. It's like, you know, I want to get back into that. I want to be healthy and fit. So with all that, it was just, it's a mess. And sometimes it still is. You know, I still want to be fit and look physically, you know, awesome. But there's other times, you know, it's like, no, I want to just be, you know, as feminine as possible. And that just becomes a conflict. So yeah, so that's where I am now. You know, as you can see, this is my final look. There is no changes. There's no vlog that I do anymore, you know, and documenting changes in emotion and all that stuff. That's just, I am where I am now. And yeah, I can say, just looking back, you know, I didn't have a hard life in transition. It went pretty well for me, and I haven't had any surgeries yet, and I don't think I will have any surgeries. I am actually happy where I'm at now. I just wish, you know, society would be happy with me, but that's not going to happen for a while, I don't believe. Forever, I don't know. It's human nature. There's always that struggle and that battle that we fight. I'm one of those people who believe that we all should get along, but you know, not everybody believes that. They got to have, you know, their thoughts and the way they want things done. They got to have their tribe, and that's just the way it is. So I just do the best that I can with what I have. So yeah, that was 23 years of just me living my life. And presenting it to you guys. Now, at the end of this video, I do have not a body update. I have a new outfit. As you can see, I've been wearing it. I didn't get it on the Big A. Instead, I found this on, well, I just went to a big box store and I saw this dress. I was like, wow, I gotta have it. So I'm gonna show it off to you today. So let me just switch my camera view.